this communist genocidal monster, Xi, of China, he's really pulled together all the power of that state. And they say he's as powerful as Mao was. And he wanted to demonstrate that. The former leader of China, who was also a very powerful man, he had the power to destroy Xi as Xi was working his way up the ladder. And he was considered fairly iron-fisted. He really put his foot down on Tibet and so forth. But he gave up power as the Chinese constitution, such as it is, provided for. So he served 2 terms. Xi, at the meeting of the Communist Party Congress, he packed it. There are several thousand people there with all loyalists. And the real governing body there is their Politburo, as you can imagine, the senior officials on the Politburo. He removed 3 or 4 of them. He replaced them again with loyalists. I believe there's 7 or 9 members of that committee, including Xi. It's all based on what Lenin and then Stalin had done. And so he has complete control of the Politburo, complete control of the Communist Party Congress. And there was a little bit of objection to what was taking place, not at the event over the weekend, but several months before, by the former premier of the Communist Party and the Communist state there. And during the Congress here, he was sitting right next to Xi's left, as you watch to our right. Many of you have seen this. I'm just trying to set it up properly. And Xi wanted to make a point. It was stunning. It was stunning to most of the people there. It was stunning to the whole world. And as Mr. Producer here and I just said, we couldn't believe we had to keep watching this. How shocking it was. And of course, the former leader, he was shocked. He couldn't believe what was taking place either. Take a look. Go.
All right, in Asia this morning, China's leader Xi Jinping is beginning an historic 3rd term in office after being anointed again as the head of the country's Communist Party. But there was an unexpected twist in the normally highly choreographed Chinese National Congress over the weekend when his predecessor was escorted off the stage. Elizabeth Palmer shows us what this means for the rest of the world.
Just as everyone expected, Xi Jinping was confirmed as the head of Chinese Communist Party and will now begin an unprecedented 3rd term as the country's leader. His 6 top lieutenants, all men, are also all Xi.
Okay, hold on a second. So for CBS, it was important that you know all of his lieutenants are men. That kind of woke crap doesn't fly in these regimes. Isn't it more important to know that he's going to start World War III with us and that he's a genocidal maniac? Go.
Loyalists, evidence that he has now amassed more power than any Chinese leader since Mao Zedong. The new leadership lineup didn't impress Asian stock markets. Hong Kong's influential Hang Seng Index fell more than 6%. And it didn't help that there is no sign Xi's zero-COVID policy, which has put the brakes on economic growth, will end anytime soon. In the closing chapters of the party Congress, there was one awkward, unscripted moment. 2 aides apparently removed Xi's predecessor, 79-year-old Hu Jintao, from the front row of dignitaries. Was he unwell, or was it a political purge? We'll probably never know.
No, we know. That security guy grabbed his arm. And what you're not seeing here is kind of pulled him up from his seat. If he wasn't well, do you think any of this would be going on here in front of everybody? This is at the end of their Congress that had been going on for a few days. He doesn't look sick. It's not a matter of he wasn't well. He sent a message, Xi, to everybody there in the whole country that he will not be challenged by anybody, including by word. So he takes out the former leader who held his position and made his position possible as the head of China and has him yanked out and removed. People don't understand. This is the sort of thing Stalin would do. This is the sort of thing Un in North Korea, his grandfather, would do. It's the sort of thing Un did with his uncle, had him murdered. It's the sort of thing you saw under Saddam Hussein in Iraq. You've seen these things in Iran. You've seen them in Russia. You've seen them everywhere. But here, you actually saw it on TV. Go ahead.
As the incident has already been scrubbed from Chinese TV and social media.
So he's scrubbed from Chinese media and social media. Scrubbed. all gone. Who knows what's going to happen to this guy? He's an old man. He's 79 years old, almost 80. And, of course, he never expected this sort of thing to happen, and nobody there did except that little cabal that Xi put together. And also the cleansing of the Politburo, of which there are 7 members. I just counted them when they came in, of 3 or 4 others. These are people who are the highest on the chain, the highest on the ladder. That's pretty shocking, too. So he has no opposition to what he wants to do. And, of course, what he wants to do is invade Taiwan. He also gave a speech, a long speech, to his toadies and lackeys and lapdogs. And he made it abundantly clear that nobody can stop him and them from doing what they want to do. Nobody. And that is us who he's talking to. And if we don't get into the right gear here and start to build up our military, start to increase morale among our troops rather than this woke crap, China is going to surpass the United States as the #1 superpower in the world for the next 100 years. That's what's going to happen. Under our failed ruling class, utterly failed ruling class, our stature in the world is shrinking. Our capabilities in the world are shrinking. You even have elements within both parties, but including the Republican Party, who think that's great as they've become isolationists. And I say, if you want to live as a poor people, if you want to live as a people who are controlled, if you want to live in the shadow of a genocidal regime, then it's fine. But if you don't, then we got a problem on our hands. Now, who is Xi and how did he get to power? Let's take a look at this from BBC and CBC News. Go.
The leader of China, Xi Jinping, is set to be given a historic 3rd term in power this weekend.
He wasn't given a historic 3rd power, he took it. A 3rd term. The president for life. He took it. Go.
And the effort to boost his image and popularity is in full swing across the country. State media has headline stories about how poorer towns have been transformed after visits from the president. Our correspondent Celia Hatton reports on how he rose to power.
When he strode onto this stage 10 years ago, signaling he'd become China's new leader, he was a relative unknown. He was supposed to rule alongside these 6 other officials. But now it's clear that he's reshaped the Communist Party, the military, and the government so that he's at the top of it all. Some call him the chairman of everything. So how did he do it? How did he become so powerful? He started out with a bold vision, the China Dream. It unleashed big projects to build things like high-speed rail networks and new global trading routes that aimed to revitalize the whole country. And through viral incidents like this, a visit to a Beijing steamed bun shop, he cultivated a different image for himself, making sure everyone in China knew his story and saw him as the top leader. He reorganized the military, too. By ousting hundreds of generals and replacing them with his allies, he's firmly in control. And let's not forget the ongoing anti-corruption crackdown. This man, Zhou Yongkang, is the former top security chief now in prison for amassing $14 billion in ill-gotten gains. More than 1 million party officials have been punished under Xi, silencing all rivals.
It's China's scripted spectacle of power. And at this Congress, Xi Jinping is clearly in charge. Head of the Communist Party and government for 10 years, he's set to continue for an exceptional 3rd term. Over the weekend, he doubled down on his signature policies. Full control over Hong Kong, promising to do the same over Taiwan, the democratic island China claims as its own. Saying again he'll use China's rapidly growing military force to invade Taiwan if necessary.
Look at who's on the stage, a place reserved for the most important in Xi Jinping's circle. This man, Zhang Gaoli, right in the front row, accused of sexual assault by Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. That allegation initially kicked off a Chinese Me Too movement. Peng Shuai all but disappeared from view. For months, the whole sporting world afraid for her. But here he is, his power and reputation unchanged. Then there's Deng Pufang, son of Deng Xiaoping, one of the most important people in China's modern history, some of whose policies have been overturned by Xi Jinping. To see the son there may squash rumors in China that the formidable family is opposed to Xi Jinping's leadership. And finally, Song Ping, 105 years old, a retired Politburo member who recently released a video implying Xi Jinping's vision of China might not be the right one. And yet, he's here. The message their presence appears to send, they are now in line. Xi Jinping's China is the only China.
Keep it right there. Now you'll look the third person back, the elderly gentleman, the shorter one. That's the former premier who was forcibly removed. And so you can see he would have no idea what was going to happen to him. He's smiling, he's walked in with Xi, and the next thing he knows, he's removed in front of everybody. Well, that's the way it works.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.